This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Hello, genius people. Yakko Warner here. The only show we listen to in the water tower is the Animanicast. I bet you can't guess why. Good night, everybody!
And welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Animanicast. And welcome once again to the Animanicast. We're the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated television series, Animaniacs. And each week we talk about a different episode of the series, exploring all the cultural references and gags that we can find. And in the end, we give each episode a Water Tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again is my brother Nathan.
Are you pondering what I'm pondering?
And not joining us from across the country once again is Kelly. And why is that Nathan? No, you're not Kelly. Don't even try to impersonate her. You can't even try to say y'all or something like that.
Well, she was with us yesterday.
She was.
And we all talked about Ready Player One, and we recorded a wonderful podcast, and then it didn't record, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a bad... It's like Star Wars. I had a bad feeling about this. It was... something was goofy when we started, and I just thought, nah, it's fine. It's fine. And then at the end, it was the most interesting podcast because you could hear my voice perfectly fine, but then Nathan and Kelly, you could kind of hear them going like talking like this. So we had to delete it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was talking through like a paper towel roll the whole time.
Oh, so. Nathan, no wonder.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about not episode 75 of Animaniacs, which we did talk about. We had a great time talking about episode 75. However, today, because of the technical difficulties, we're going to go back to one of our favorite things to do, which is talk about the Animaniacs comic book. And we left off on issue number 5. So today, we're going to do a kind of a quick rundown of what's in what's in issue number 5 of the Animaniacs comic book, which I believe dates all the way back to September of 1995. I have the comic book right here in front of me. Let's get this foldy here.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, turning of pages. And lots of great ads in here for Batman. There's a great ad in here for the Batman Forever trading cards, and there's an ad in here for Batman and Robin on VHS, and you could turn in a couple to get a cool Batman action figure. And of course, there's another ad in this issue about the Batman and Robin video game on Genesis. We had the Super Nintendo version of that. Do you remember, Nathan?
Yeah.
And it was such a cool game, and now I don't know where it is anymore. It's either sold or just lost to the times. Oh well, they need to re-release that.
It's fun. I have the little tiny SNES, the SNES Classic, and I downloaded it onto that, so I can play it anytime.
Ooh, I see what you did there. So did you get did you do kind of like the ROM kind of thing onto it?
Yep.
Sneaky. Well, we need to get the Animaniacs SNES game.
Oh yeah,
to play that and
probably
review that at some point. But yeah, I'm going to try to find the non-ROM version of that, and we'll see. But anyway, let's get into our discussion here of today's comic book, and after we do, we're going to share a little bit about the PreKakan, which recently came out on Facebook. It was the first Freakazoid convention. It was completely, digital. It was a lot of fun, and we're going to talk about a little bit about that. And then we're going to share some more emails from Rob Paulsen is one of the nicest people on earth, or whatever we're calling that, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Close enough. because we have a lot of emails to get through. So we're only going to be able to get through 3 or 4 today, but there's going to be quite a few more, and we'll hopefully get to a few more of them next week as well. So if you don't hear it this week, don't worry. You can always wait till next week. And if you haven't sent in your thoughts or memories of meeting Rob Paulsen for the first time or second time or third time or whatever, you can send them in to us at animanicast@retrozap.com. Well, let's go ahead and get into our discussion of the comic book, Nathan. What do you say?
I think that's a plan, I guess.
Okay. Well, before we get into the discussion right here of the different segments, I think we better talk about the cover, which is it's pretty crazy. It's
it's
a lot of stuff going on
all over the place.
Yeah. Well, describe the cover for us, Nathan. What's going on?
Okay, well, there's they just seem to be at some sort of on a roller coaster ride. All right, and all the Warners are inside of it, and Yakko's holding Hello Nurse. There's also Slappy's in the roller coaster with him, and on her head is Squid and Pesto. On her, also Brain is on Wacko's head. There's Pinky holding on to a banner that's attached to the roller coaster. It says "Surrender Humans." And I guess that's Colin from the Randy Beeman segments is also in their roller coaster, and they're all being chased by Ralph, who's in a separate roller coaster. And meanwhile, Mr. Mine, is in front of them with no face makeup on, which is kind of weird, and he's being chased by the roller coaster as well. And then in the sky, you can see Mindy and Buttons is getting hit in the face with the words Animaniacs with some weird italic confetti kind of stuff around some of the A's.
That's the classic Animaniacs font that it is such a weird font, but it is on a lot of Animaniacs merchandise. It's kind of like the secondary title for Animaniacs stuff, actually. It's not the bubbly letters, but more the jaggedish kind of letters with the weird italicized stuff around it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. And like you said, Nathan, the paint job is not the best on some of these, especially on the Mime. Like you said, like the Mime has no face makeup on at all. Like he's just normal skin colored. So, and you mentioned Squid or not Squid. You did say Squid, but it was actually
I did say Squid.
But it's Pesto on top of Slappy's head. But the problem is he's pointing or screaming ahead, and in front of him, Squid is there in a kind of a fighting cloud, which usually happens.
So is he fighting Bobby? Bobby never fights Squid. It's always Pesto and Squid.
Yeah,
so
and if you look forward into that cloud of the pigeons fighting, it's Squid and Pesto, but Pesto's colored. Yeah, but Pesto's colored in gray. Like, so everything is just going wrong on here. There's essentially 2 Pestos on this cover.
Yeah,
it's kind of messed up.
And then with this cover, you're like, oh boy, at least I'm gonna get like Pinky and the Brain. I'm gonna get some Good Feathers, probably some Skippy Slappy, some Ralph chasing the Warner. Like, you don't get any of this. No Mindy and Buttons. Like, this is the most like misrepresentative cover, I think.
Yeah,
there's nothing to do with
there are no amusement parks. There's it's all three cartoons, all 3 comics segments, I should say, are all Warner Brothers and Warner Sister based, which is nice. Yeah. But yeah, there's no other characters. I was kind of looking forward to maybe seeing the Good Feathers or something.
Yeah, exactly. Ralph's not like even chasing them in any. He's almost friends with them in one of them, and the other 2 doesn't even exist. So it's kind of a weird. Well, it doesn't fit the comic.
Well, let's get into our discussion of this one. I'll go ahead and talk real quick about the first one that we see, which is called Animaniacs in the Not So Model Mother. And in this comic, it's kind of weird because there's this narration that's going on in the upper left-hand corners of some of the frames, some of the panels, I should say. And it starts off, it says, it's spring, it's sunny. So what if it's the 19th century? You couldn't ask for a more perfect day for a picnic. Well, this narrator or whomever continues to narrate throughout it randomly. But basically, this story is Dot is going out for a picnic. She's lugging her picnic basket along, and it's very heavy for some reason. And of course, the reason is because Yakko and Wacko are inside, and they have been waiting to eat all of the food. And but they ate the decoy food, which they think is disgusting. Anyway, they basically go through the woods, and all of a sudden they see somebody in the woods painting the landscape. He's a landscape artist. And he is it's almost like he's painting in paint by numbers, throughout the woods. The leaves are all, black and white, and he's coloring them in green and everything like that. Well, they basically say, we can help you out. You should be, a different type of artist. We could be your models. And he says, well, models cost, money. And they said, well, we could do it for you. We'll pose for you. So they go back to his studio, and there's fruit and everything there. They try like doing abstract art, like Dot's pushing her face on canvases and things like that. So it turns out the reason he stopped working in this studio is because his mother is a party animal, and she turned it into her own party room, a rec room, basically. And soon enough, she actually comes barging through the door with her old friends, literally old friends, because they're all old people. And they all are playing umpapas on tubas, and they're doing conga line polkas throughout the whole place. And she grabs the painter and starts, dancing around with it. And I think it's around this time that we find out that this painter's name is Whistler, and that's Whistler's mother. We're already getting some hints about what's going to happen in this episode. They're trying to figure out, how to help him out. Wacko at one point has a brainchild, which is very weird. He gets this idea from a brainchild, which is literally a brain in diapers that walks in and gives Wacko some ideas. And they decide, let's play musical chairs to get the mother to stop doing this. So they play musical chairs with Whistler and his mother, and they play all the way until there's just Whistler and his mom, and Whistler's mother shoves him out of the way, sits down on this rocking chair and says, "Ha, I won." But then she can't get out of the chair because the Warners put glue in the chair. And so Whistler is stuck. Whistler's mom is stuck in the chair and therefore has to get painted. And hence, that's how we got the painting of Whistler's mother. I don't know. Nathan, what do you think about this first comic?
Not great. No. I think it's kind of all over the place, but I don't know. I didn't even know really what to think of it. I don't know. I feel like they could have cut out like the picnic part of it probably, or something. I don't know. It was just, it didn't seem to have a through story way. I think I felt bad for John Whistler or whatever his name is, James Whistler. And I didn't know who that was until towards the end when I'm like, oh, Whistler's mother. Like as soon as the mom comes into the room and she's wearing that typical mother, Whistler's mother outfit. That's, I don't know. It was a weird cartoon.
Well, just for the record, since I didn't say it at the beginning, the writer of this first comic was John Walker. The penciler was John Costanza. Inker was Scott McRae. Letterer was Bob Panaha. And colorist was Dave Tanguay. It was not the funniest one, and it took a while. It felt longer than it needed to be. I tried to, skim through as much as I could, but yeah, it wasn't the funniest thing in the world. But I think the middle one here was a little bit funnier. Let's talk about that one. This is called Animaniacs in a Wing and a Prayer, and the writer was Dave King. Penciler was Kelly Jarvis. Inker, Scott McRae once again. Letterer was Bob Panaha, and the colorist is Tom Ziuko. And Nathan, what happens here in A Wing and a Prayer?
All right. Well, I think it's 1903, and the Wright brothers have just built their first plane, or at least the Wright brothers plane. So
The
I don't want to say
aeroplane,
it's
as
the
they
first
call
plane.
it.
Yeah, the aeroplane. And then they go, "Hey, so you should fly it," and neither one wants to fly it, so they get in a big fight. And they're on the beach, and hey, the Warners are also on the beach. They're gonna have a nice sunny time on the beach, but they notice the guys are fighting, and they kind of shout at them, and then the Wright brothers are like, "Hey, why don't you guys go fly on the plane?" So first up, they try to get Dot to fly the plane, and they're like, "All right, we'll just stay away from these propellers." Like, oh, obviously, like I'm gonna get up to this propeller, and then she gets pulled into the propeller and shot away. So then I believe it's Wacko's up next, and he jumps in, flies, and immediately crashes. So then they all have to fix the plane. So they rebuild the plane basically from scratch. And then I guess it would be Yakko up next, and then but he doesn't even get in it. He ends up taking the chair because take a seat, and they start fighting with him, trying to get him in. Meanwhile, Wacko is eating a banana. He drops the peel. The Wright brothers slip and fall into the plane, turn it on, and they go shooting off into the air. And it's all good, except they also remove their landing gear. But
Yeah,
that's the end. So.
Yeah, basically at the end, the Wright brothers fall in and get blasted off, and who knows if they'll ever land properly because Yakko has their landing gear. It's a cute a comic. I think it's drawn really, really well. I think the Warners look really on model and everything. I think they have good expressions and everything. So it looks really cool. It has some cute little moments of Wacko constantly eating lots of candy and them saying, "Give me your candy." He says, "All of it?" Yeah, and then of course he gets a bag full of candy, dumps it all out on the Wright brothers and everything.
It's the Wacko's bag, so it's infinite or whatever,
Yeah, the Wright brothers don't want to fly this plane because, of course, they are afraid that this isn't going to work. They say well, the Warners, let's just get these kids to do it because they say. This is crazy. That's crazy, dangerous, irresponsible. We'll do it. So it fit in with the Warners, how they would want to do this. I think it was a relatively good comic. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I think they could have this could be an actual I could see this being an actual segment kind of thing on TV. I think even
it fit in. It fit into a standard kind of setup of an Animaniacs cartoon, and it was a good first draft, I would say, of an actual cartoon that I would see on the show. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the last segment now. This is called Animaniacs in the Trouble with Trainees. And in the Trouble with Trainees, it starts off with Thaddeus Plotz, and he is scared. And why is he scared? Well, the Warners are coming in, of course. That's why he's scared. But he's going to try to fix the problem with the Warners being so crazy by teaming them up with Ralph the Guard. And they're going to become new security guards for Warner Brothers Studio. Well, Dr. Scratch and Sniff is very excited about this idea, too, because he says now he can get back to analyzing all of the big movie stars and charging them lots of money and everything, which I thought to myself, oh yeah, that's right. That is what Dr. Scratch and Sniff did I'm so used to watching him in the cartoons, just kind of being like the Warner's father figure, essentially, that I forget that, oh yeah, he has a job on the Warner Brothers lot, and it's supposed to be talking with celebrities and helping them out with all of their issues. And that was nice to see that line. Anyway, the Warners, meanwhile, are hanging out with Ralph, and they're driving him crazy. He's trying to say you have to do lots of push-ups, and he's starts counting to 3 or 4 and then he starts having trouble. And of course they pan back and it's because the Warners are all sitting on his back. He's showing them the very complicated procedure of the guard gates, and the Warners smash the gate down on his head. The Warners eventually do, understand the importance of security. They start marching around the Warner Brothers lot, and they take it, of course, too seriously, because what they do is they put barbed wire and a trench and they tie up Ralph and essentially make it so that no one can get into the lot because they have secured it with so much barbed wire that, Thaddeus Potts is answering the phone and he goes, "What, Mr. Nicholson? What, Mr. Burton?" For like Jack Nicholson and Tim Burton, which I thought was like, okay, cool. You can't say their full name, but you can kind of give us a hint that these celebrities are trying to get in. Anyway, that's that cartoon. That's that comic. What do you think about it, Ethan?
I feel like Potts hurts himself a lot at the end, like that last panel.
Oh, it's pretty. It's pretty harsh, isn't it? He's like torn up. Like it really did look painful.
He apparently starts climbing through the barbed wire saying, "Please come back," to all the movie stars.
Yes.
There's got to be a better way to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it did that frame did look painful. It was some good, artwork overall in this one as well, especially with Thaddeus Potts and Dr. Scratch and Sniff. I thought looked pretty expressive and everything. So it was a good job right there. This one right here, but the writer once again was Dave King, penciler Horatia Saavedra, inker Ruben Torriero, letterer was Steve Haney, and colorist Joe Mignot. But yeah, it was a good comic. I enjoyed it, or at least that little part of it was very nice. Anything else highlights of this last segment, Nathan?
They really didn't like the commissary.
Oh yeah, that's weird. Yeah, they said it's either do this or work in the commissary. Which, if it was me, I would rather work in the commissary because. But
apparently, it's the most vile and feared place in the studio.
See, that's how they describe it. I didn't get, because the commissary is where they did, if I'm not mistaken, that's where Karaoke Dokie was being held, and all the celebrities and people eat at. It's like the cafeteria, right? The commissary. Yeah. And that's where, years and years ago, when we went to the Warner Brothers lot in the 90s, I saw George Clooney at the commissary eating on the outside of it. So I don't know why they wouldn't go to the commissary.
Yeah, and I'm sure they would just, do food fights or something,
Yeah.
They would have fun wherever they're at. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but whatever. So it was a pretty good comic segment right there. Well, let's go ahead and get to our water tower rating for this comic. So what do you think, Nathan? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give this comic book?
I'm going to give it 2 water towers, I think. Yeah. I didn't like the cover. I thought that cover should have been different because it put up my expectations and then it was shattered. So I'm like, oh man, look at this exciting episode of the issue. But if it had a different count, I'm pretending it's not there, and then still none of the segments are amazing. But the last 2 are fine. Better than the Whistler's Mother, I think.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3 water tower rating because I don't know. There's nothing terrible about it. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, it wasn't horrible. It was just okay. I'll take it or leave it.
You get a maze in this too. The sack time maze.
That's true. You get a sack time maze.
It's like, I guess it's a search and find. It's kind of a weird.
Yeah, there's a search and find thing, and there's also a great connect the dots. And of course, it's I haven't connected the dots on this one, but my guess is...
I know what it is.
Yeah, it's Dot doing something. And you're supposed to then put the completed image in front of a mirror, and using my very quick backwards reading skills, it looks like it says, what were you expecting? Maybe Julia Roberts. And so, yeah, but it's Dot. I'll see if I can make a scan of this last Connect the Dots image and put it on our show notes for anybody who wants to have a Connect the Dots game. It is a very long Connect the Dots. Looks like there's like over 100 something dots on here. So
yeah, I think 102 is the last one.
I did try. I did print this out at my work a few weeks ago, and was going to try to connect the dots. And I got busy doing other stuff. It actually is that long and complicated. So if you do connect the dots, go to our show notes, print up the image, and let us know what the finished image looks like. What is it? We don't know. It might be Wacko or Yakko. I'm not exactly sure.
I'm reading that speech bubble, and I think it is what you were expecting, maybe Julia Roberts, but that doesn't make sense.
But is it backwards though?
No, because the word is before the U on our side, so that means
I don't know
what you were expecting, maybe Julia Roberts, and I feel like they wrote it wrong because they're like.
Did they write it wrong? Okay, well, there you go. Perhaps.
I think they wrote it backwards to themselves.
Oh, man. Yet another problem in this. Anyway, well, you can check out all the images from this comic. If you search around online, you can find some comic sites that actually scan all this. Or you can do what I did and just go to some of these comic book online stores and get your own copy for just a couple bucks. And because these Animaniacs comic books, they're not that easy to find in actual brick and mortar stores anymore. Trust me, I tried. I called almost every comic book shop here in Tucson, and I even last time at Phoenix Comic-Con went around quite a bit to see if people had the old Animaniacs comic books, and I just couldn't find them anywhere. So really the best way to do it is just to go on to some of the comic book shops online and see if they have any of the issues in their warehouses. And usually, like I said, you can get them for just a couple bucks each, a lot cheaper, or at least around the same price of comic books today. And it's very nostalgic looking at all these old advertisements and everything too. So it's a lot of fun.
I don't see why those Warner brats can't tease their own commercials.
Banded together across the television dial are the 4 greatest superhero podcasts on the internet. Green Justice and Arrow podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash podcast, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, and Terrigen Dreams and Inhumans podcast. Join Super Friends Jovial J and Jedi Schwa weekly as they provide commentary and discussion on your favorite heroes. Only on RetroZap.com.
Hey, Robert, why should people listen to another retro gaming podcast?
You mean our cast, David? We do have to keep this short, you know.
Yes, well, I guess we should start with the fact we celebrate old school video games.
And we have awesome guests and game giveaways. Don't forget that.
Plus our game show and your favorite segment, Random Select.
Don't remind me. Are we done yet?
Listen to our cast, another retro gaming podcast, part of RetroZap.com.
Finally, back to my beer.
You want a show? We'll give you a show. Back to Animaniacs.
Let's go ahead and talk about PreKakan right now. And this was PreKakan Part 1. Yes, this is just the first PreKakan. Hopefully next year there'll be another one. But the first PreKakan happened on March 15th on Facebook at facebook.com/PreKakan. Nathan, were you able to catch any of this streaming event?
Yeah, I caught the last 30 minutes, the last 20 minutes, something like that. So it was, yeah.
Well, it was a lot of fun. It was it's a very, you really have to see the whole hour it's on. It's you can actually watch the whole replay by either going to facebook.com/PreKakan, but also PreKakan has all of its social media set up as well. So it has its own YouTube channel, and it has a Twitter account, and it has an Instagram account as well, I believe. So they are all social media conscious now, and has a lot of great behind-the-scenes information on the making of the show Freakazoid.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Tom Ruger and Paul Rugg.
Thank you. Hey, Tom. Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Oh,
Thanks
my
all
word.
of you for being here, for tuning in. Hey, let's say hello to our Emmy-winning composers, Julie and Steve Bernstein. And let's also say hello to the announcer of Freakazoid, the one, the only, Mr. Joe Leahy.
Now, before we begin, we just want to acknowledge that unfortunately, we made a little mistake, and we forgot to invite an audience, and further to let you all know where Tom lives, since we're doing this from his garage. Now, we're kind of new at this, so forgive us.
But we did arrange to have one audience member through the courtesy of Rent an Audience of the Greater Conejo Valley, and they provided this audience member in exchange for this promotional announcement. Joe?
Thanks, Tom. If you need an audience, look no further than Rent an Audience of the Greater Conejo Valley. We'll laugh and clap at anything.
Just to give you some quick highlights of the show, Paul Dini came out to talk about working on the show. There were some great questions and answers from the audience. There was, let's see, what else did they have? They had a bunch of Freakazoid fanboy or fangirl contest entries, which was very pleased. I was very pleased that they had so many entries. I was a little disappointed that my entry didn't have time to be shown. I was like, "Aw." Nathan and I made this whole freak. Nathan was the person holding the camera, and I was the person in front of the camera. We tried to do our own Freaka boy, fanboy. Yes, we tried to do our own fanboy contest entry, but unfortunately, they didn't have time to show it. So yeah, it was funny because I got a text from Tom Ruger saying like, Joey, thanks for the entry, but we just didn't have time to show it. We wanted to keep it to an hour. So who knows? Maybe they'll just put it in the background and show it next year. Maybe. But yeah, there was also they did go out and record a quick segment with John McCann. Did you see that, Nathan?
No, I missed that. That must have been right before I saw it.
Yeah, it is. It's on the actual Facebook page itself. It is disturbing in a crazy way. John McCann he looks. I don't want to ruin it, but basically he looks like a crazy old man in this video, and he's asking for a Happy Clown breakfast soup, which was the official sponsor of the PreKakan from Osiris Foods, of course.
I can remember absolutely everything, young man. That's my curse. That's one of the greatest curses ever inflicted on mankind, memory. You wouldn't happen to have any Happy Clown breakfast soup?
No, I'm sorry. I'm afraid of...
Look at me. I've asked you for Happy Clown breakfast soup. I've become quite a soup lover. Breakfast soup, though, not afternoon soup, not dinner soup. I can't abide dinner soup.
Now, Mr. McCann, if I could just...
You want to ask me questions. You want to know about something.
Yes. Freakazoid?
Ooh. You want to know how I got started?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it started in an office. They always start in an office. And I was busy working on shows that'll never see the light of day. Sea Dentist, Fudge the Happy Chocolate. One day they came into my office, they dropped a mess of papers on my desk. Freak-a-Kid, Farfanugan, Fred's appendectomy. Freakazoid. You knew it all the time. You asked me that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not such a clever old man after all.
If you could just get to...
I have a mind full of soup.
Anyway, if you're a fan of Freakazoid, you really got to go check out the replay of all the stuff from PreKakan. It was a lot of fun, and can't wait for it to be, for next year. If we get more behind-the-scenes stuff about Freakazoid, go check it out. And we'll have all the links and everything like that on our show notes for today. Well, Nathan, let's go ahead and get to our last segment right now, which is Rob Paulsen, one of the nicest people on Earth. And we have some emails to read from folks who have sent their thoughts about Rob. What do you got here?
Okay, well, I have one from the Plucky Duck. Have you heard of him, Joey?
Yes.
From Tiny Toons?
Yes.
Yeah. Plucky Duck Yeah. So he says, this is Plucky, mind you.
This is
what?
We gotta make sure people know. This is, of course, a Twitter user who he listens to our show, and he has done used the avatar of Plucky Duck to be him on Twitter. So this is not the official Plucky Duck, but the he's using the avatar of Plucky.
You can't say for sure though, because maybe Plucky is doing it incognito and doesn't want you to know that it's a real Plucky Duck.
Okay.
What better way to do that than to pretend to be Plucky Duck? Okay. It's undercover. Hi, just responding to the tweet about sharing memories with Rob Paulsen. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to meet a cartoon voice actor. I'm not sure if it was 1995 or 1996, but it was the last Pinky and the Brain World Domination voice tour. I was in college in New Jersey, and Mr. Paulsen and Mr. LaMarche were going to be at the Warner Brothers studio store in downtown Manhattan, NYC. Now, I'm the kind of guy who gets lost in my own driveway and have a big anxiety about being lost. Back then, I didn't have GPS or a smartphone or even a regular cell phone. I don't even know if MapQuest had a website yet. I got up early that Saturday morning, went to the train station, and just took a train to anywhere in New York. I had no idea where I was going or how I was going to get there, but I ended up taking the subway in the wrong direction and ended up in Coney Island. So I turned around, got off the subway where I got on and then walked 40 blocks to the store. Got to the store, followed the line up to the third floor art gallery, and they were sitting at a table at the end of the room, signing autographs, talking to each other in character and joking around with everyone. A store employee handed me a Pinky and the Brain postcard, which they signed and I still have framed. And I think we talked for maybe 1 or 2 minutes at most about how much I loved the show and said hi for an online friend who lived in California. After that, I took my signed card, bought some Animaniacs t-shirts, and was walking on air the 40 blocks back to the train station. It was this 12-plus hour day just to spend 2 minutes with childhood gods, and it was totally worth it. What really stood out was that Rob and Maurice really seemed to be having fun and enjoyed meeting the fans. They were so naturally entertaining. And they weren't even trying. Plucky Duck. That must have been weird seeing Plucky on the subway.
They allow ducks on the subway? I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, let's go ahead and get to another email here. Thank you very much, Plucky, by the way, for sending that in. This next one is from Miley Wood. And Miley says, I met Rob at Denver Comic-Con in 2015. I dressed up as April simply because I knew 2 of the actors from my favorite show were going to be there. I walked up to his booth and waited for the person in front of me to get their picture. I was so nervous, excited, and a bit scared. He was facing away from the line when it was my turn, so as I walked up, he turned around and saw my outfit, and in his Donatello voice, he exclaimed, April, you are so cute. I about passed out. I got a picture and an autograph. I hope to have Kevin Eastman and Greg Sips signed this year from him, and I was concerned about it getting home without any damages, as I didn't have anything to carry it in. That is, by the way, a huge concern. If you ever go to a Comic-Con, try to bring a book, ladies and gentlemen. A big book is what I suggest doing, so you can put your pictures and stuff in there. Or you can buy little, 8x10 protectors as well. But yeah, my experience, you have to get some sort of book or maybe a binder as well. That can help. But yeah. Well, my first convention, I got some pictures signed and I was like, oh, great. Now what am I going to do to make sure this thing doesn't get wrinkled in the next few hours? Anyway.
You just stuffed it in your pocket.
I just stuffed it in my pocket. Just rolled. No. Let me just fold this up. Okay. Back to the email. back to the email. Day 2, I literally bumped into Rob at the con, and he remembered me from the day before and asked if my autograph got to my home in one piece. I was shocked and amazed. He remembered. He must have met so many people those 2 days. I figured he wouldn't remember one silly fan, but he caught my fall and remembered me. Thank you, Rob, for making my year. I still blush when I think about my favorite turtle calling me cute. And this is from Melinda Owens, a.k.a. Turtle Nerd. So thank you, Miley or Melinda, whatever you like to be called, and or Turtle Nerd, for that email. Nathan, what else do you got?
I got one here from Elizabeth. It's a quick one. It just says, "Hey guys, it's Elizabeth. My first memory of Rob was when I watched him on Nick, and he's my idol and hero and role and inspiration ever since."
Okay, let's get to one more for today. This one's from Justin Steinberg, and Justin says, "Hello, this is Justin Steinberg, and I'm sharing my thoughts on Rob Paulsen. Rob Paulsen is my favorite voice actor. I actually had the great honor of meeting him back in 2015 at the San Francisco Comedy Sketch Fest. I want to go there someday." Anyway, back to Justin's email. After he attended the Afternoon with Animaniacs show, and I remember he talked as Pinky for me. It made my day and gave me a good laugh. I grew up watching Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, so being able to meet the guy behind the voices from those shows was a real treat. He was super nice. In closing, Rob Paulsen is a fantastic voice actor and a fantastic guy in general. I hope I get the chance to meet him again someday. Keep doing the great work with your podcast. Sincerely, Justin Steinberg. And thank you very much, Justin, for that.
Oh, we gotta do a good job with the podcast.
I know. Well, we better start. We've almost been doing this for 2 years, and we gotta start turning things around quick, Nathan.
Oh no.
Well, thank you so much for all those folks who send in those emails. And like I said, there are several more we're going to be getting through. So if you have not yet sent in your thoughts about Rob Paulsen, go ahead and send them over to animanicast@retrozap.com. Well, Nathan, let's go ahead and wrap things up. So let's get to some contact information. Where can people get in contact with you online?
Ooh, I'm on Twitter, JangoFT, that's me. And yeah, that's me.
That is you. All right. And you know what, Nathan? We're on Twitter too for the Animanicast. You can, yeah, it's true. You can go to twitter.com/Animanicast. You can go to facebook.com/Animanicast. You can check us out on Instagram as well. And hey, you can send us an email, animanicast@retrozap.com. You can subscribe to our show feed on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, your favorite podcast player of choice. We're also on Spotify as well, which I've been checking out that app. It actually is a pretty cool app. You can listen to music and podcasts all together. It even works with one of my favorite apps, the Waze app. So when you're watching out for cops on the freeway, you could be listening to the Animanicast as well. It gets all synced together like that. It's pretty cool. Also, check out our archives over at animanicast.com, and that'll take you straight on over to our RetroZap archives, where you can see some detailed show notes. You can see a bunch of our other shows and check them out. You'll love them. You'll love them. And speaking of loving stuff, you'll also love the other stuff you see at RetroZap as well, such as articles, podcasts, videos, tons of other things. So we're a proud member of the RetroZap.com family. And really, RetroZap is the place to go for all your pop culture needs, so check it out. Well, with that, and hopefully if everything recorded this time properly, for Nathan and me, Joey, this is Joey, saying good night, everybody.
Longest exit ever. Oh, good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.